Students, coming to the next topic, that is fully functionally dependency. In the previous video I explained about what is a functional dependency. Means the non-key attributes that will depends upon the key attribute. Okay, any attribute that depends upon another attribute, then you can say there is a dependency relationship between those attributes that are present in a table relation. Okay, now let us see what is a fully functional dependency. Let's take one example. Suppose A, B, C determines D. So here we can say D is fully functional dependent on A, B, C. How you can say this is fully functionally dependent on A, B, C? So A, B, C combinedly uniquely determines the D value. So then D is fully functional dependent on A, B, C. Okay, because a D cannot dependent on any subsets of AC. Suppose if D is fully functional dependent on ABC means D cannot depends on any subset. You can take any subset of ABC. So here, whenever the D is fully functional dependent on ABC means D cannot depends on the subsets of ABC. The subsets of ABC are nothing but suppose BC determines D, C determines D, A determines D. Okay, so these are the subsets. BC is one subset, C is one subset, and A is one subset in ABC. So it is not possible. It's not possible in case of fully functional dependent because BC cannot determine D. So BC uniquely cannot determine D. Only ABC can uniquely determine B. Okay, subset of ABC, BC cannot determine D and C cannot determine D. In the same way, A cannot determine D. Okay, only ABC determines D means D is fully functional dependent on ABC. So this is a concept of fully functional dependent. Fully functional dependent means the D is an attribute which is fully functional dependent on only the combination of ABC, not the subsets of ABC. So then you can say it is a fully functional dependent. Let me take one example for this fully functional dependent. Example, I'm taking the attributes for the table ID student and a student name, ID professor, and the grade for. Okay, so S1 is the student, S2 is the two students IDs, and the name is suppose Pinky, Lucky, and here the ID professors are P2 and P1, and the grade is 5, 6. So here the attributes grade, this grade is fully functional dependent on student ID and ID professor because these are the two keys here. Okay, ID student as well as ID professor are nothing but identification keys here because those are the IDs. The IDs will not be multiple, only the values for this should be unique values. So here ID and the ID professors are identification keys. So then the attribute grade is fully functional dependent on ID student, ID professor, so this you call it as fully functional dependent. Why it is fully functional dependent? Because the grade is depends upon two attributes, the combination of two attributes, not only the single attribute, it is depends upon the combination of two attributes. Then whenever it is the combination of two or more attributes, when the one attribute it depends upon the combination of two or more attributes, then you can say it is fully functional dependent. Okay, so this is about the fully functional dependent. Now let us see the transitive dependent. So what is a transitive dependent? So I hope everyone knows the formula for the transitive dependency. So whenever A tends to B, B tends to C, then A tends to C. Let me write that. The transitive dependency formula is consider attributes. Let us consider an attribute for a relation is A, B and C, or the attributes that are present in a relation, and where A determines B and B determines C. If functional dependents are transitive, if these functional dependencies are transitive, also have the functional dependence. Means whenever these two relations is having these two attributes is having the functional dependency relationship, then if they are having the transitivity, then also you can write also have the functional dependency for A determines C. So here this C is transitively dependent on A through B. So here this C is transitively dependent on A through B. So first A determines B, then B determines C, then only A will determine the C. Means B depends on A, C depends on B. In the same way, C also depends on A only through B. So this is a transitive dependency formula. So let me take one example to explain this transitive dependency. Let us take the employee number determines department number. Means the department number depends upon the employee number. Okay. So here employee number, employee email, department number and department name. So these are the attributes that are present in a relation, employee relation. Okay, so these are the four attributes that are present. Here this employee number determines employee email and also it determines department number, because employee number determines department number means department number depends on employee number. Okay, in the same way a department number determines department name, which means the department name depends on, functionally depend on department number. So there is a relation exists. So this is a dependency. So here A tends to B and B tends to C. So here this is A tends to B and this B determines C. Now I have to write A determines C. How can I write this? Let me take that. So employee number, employee email, department number, department name. So these are the attributes. First A tends to C. Okay, so here employee number determines department number as well as employee email. So here I am just writing only department, employee number determines department number and department number determines department name. So here this is depends upon this and this attribute depends upon this. Then whenever these two conditions are satisfied, employee number also determines department name. Why it determines the department name? Because it is indirectly, employee number is indirectly, so this is indirectly first it determines the department number. Whenever this department number depends on employee number, obviously this department name also depends on employee number. Why it is also depends on employee number? Because these master, for this is a master. This master is already depends on employee number. So whenever the master depends on the superior, so this junior also has to follow the rules of the senior. So that's why this is a condition. A tends to B, B tends to C, then A tends to C. So here A is the master, B is the submaster, and C is the junior. So whenever B depends on A, C, the junior depends on submaster. In the same way, the submaster has to follow the rules of the superior also, the master. Okay, let me take the principal. Suppose the principal, teacher. Okay, so here the teacher depends on principal. He follows the principal words. So in the same way, the teacher, student. So student depends on teacher. Obviously, the principal determines the student. Means the students also depends upon the principal also. Means here the student is following the rules of teacher as well as the principal. So this is a transitive property. Whenever the teacher follows the words of the principal, the student follows the words of the teacher. So the student has to follow the rules of the principal also. So A tends to B, B tends to C, and A tends to C. Okay. So this is the transitive dependency. Thank you.